People are making millions of dollars with e-commerce in 2021, and it really is no joke. I mean, this is the greatest opportunity of our era in terms of starting a business, in terms of making money online, passive income, and really achieving freedom for yourself. I'm talking about everyday people. All they had when they started were just big dreams, people with an incredible entrepreneurial drive. They wanted to do something with their life, and maybe they had $1,000 or $2,000 to start. And it's not that uncommon to see these exact same people within 1 to 2 years after starting, they've been able to grow massive e-commerce stores and brands that have taken the world over, making them millions of dollars per year in sales and profit. And I'm talking about regular people just like you. Let me share some examples with you. Let's take our first example, Manscaped. This was founded by Paul Tran, who was just a regular guy who always had a fascination for entrepreneurship. What happened was that he saw a gap in the market for male hygiene, and he started Manscaped. He actually was wondering, why were there so many beauty products and hygiene products for women, but there were almost no personal hygiene products for men other than very basic trimmers. And so he started Manscaped. 2 years later, the company is worth over $700 million, and Manscaped today does over $100 million in revenue per year. Let's take another example, Glamnetic. This one was started by a young woman named Ann McFerrin, and she actually was a young artist from LA. She attended UCLA, but she always had a passion for entrepreneurship. And even when she started to focus more on her art, she realized that her dreams and her passions they lied in entrepreneurship. So that's when she started searching for online business opportunities. She found out about e-commerce a few years ago, and she started a store selling magnetic lashes. Today, Glamnetic is a multi-million-dollar business, and they've done millions of dollars in sales just in the past few years. Snow Teeth Whitening. This one was started by Josh Elizetsky, and he actually started Snow at 22 years old. He had a simple dream of providing people with the luxury of whitening their teeth from home. And today, Snow Teeth Whitening makes over $5 million in sales every single month, and they're valued at an estimated $50 to $100 million. So these are just a few examples of people, everyday people who managed to start incredibly successful e-commerce businesses from zero, and basically they built businesses that made them all multimillionaires in just the span of the last few years. Now the question is this possible for you? And the answer is absolutely. I've personally been involved in e-commerce in the last few years. I've sold millions of dollars online in various e-commerce products. I've grown several million-dollar brands, and it's basically been my life since 2017. That's what actually got me into entrepreneurship. It was my first business, and it made me incredibly successful. It allowed me to basically achieve a freedom lifestyle where I'm able to travel the world, visit such incredible countries like Fiji, Norway, Iceland, all over the US, all over my home country of Canada, just all over the world, been able to live this location independent lifestyle where I can work from anywhere. All I have to do is just log on to Amazon, log on to Shopify, optimize ads, do product research, and just running my e-commerce brands. I'm going to show you in this video exactly why it's actually never been easier and more accessible for anybody in the world to start a successful e-commerce business and live the life of their dreams. During the past 1 to 2 years, the world has gone through its most transformational and most challenging period seen in recent history. And the number one trend that we've seen in terms of business and just in the way that the economics have been changing of the world is the massive wave of bankruptcies of hundreds of worldwide well-known brands that have closed down forever as this crazy, what I call world situation has ravaged the globe in the past few years. And we're talking about the likes of Sears, Blockbuster, JCPenney, Neiman Marcus, G-Star, Chuck E. Cheese, Toys R Us, GNC, J.Crew, Roots, and tons more. It's so bad that Wikipedia literally has a page called The Retail Apocalypse, and it keeps an up-to-date list of all the world brands, all the retailers that are either closing stores or are filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. If you look at the names on this updated Wikipedia page, these are well-known names like Bed Bath & Beyond, Blockbuster, Best Buy. Almost every single retailer is on here. Crate & Barrel, Dress Barn, Forever 21, GameStop, Gap, GNC. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Michael Kors, Microsoft, Neiman Marcus, Nike, right? So, as you can see, Nike announced plans to shift towards e-commerce and decrease its retail partners from 14,000 to 40, meaning that it had 14,000 stores or retail partners, and now it only has 40 across the country. During this massively chaotic time, there has only been one industry that not only survived, but thrived, and that is e-commerce. Personally, I've been in the e-commerce industry for the last 3.5 to 4 years, and I've seen the world situation just massively change the game. Let's take a look at the stocks of two of the world's biggest companies. Amazon Amazon and Shopify. Amazon stock is up nearly 100% since the beginning of 2020. Shopify stock is up over 200% during the same time period. It's pretty obvious that e-commerce is growing at an exponential rate and it's here to stay. And I will say it, I've been involved in online business during the past few years. E-commerce is the number one online business opportunity and just business opportunity overall of the 21st century. Those brands that I mentioned earlier, Manscaped, Glamnetic, and Snow Teeth Whitening, these brands were started with just like a few $1,000s, maybe max 5 to 10K, and they were able to scale to millions of dollars per year and even per month, like Snow Teeth Whitening, in sales. And that's not unachievable for you. The people that started it, all three of these people, Paul Tran, Ann McFerrin, and Josh Elizetsky, they didn't have incredible e-commerce experience. They just found out about the fact that e-commerce is here to stay and it would be a great idea to start an e-commerce business. And what they did was they probably just watched YouTube videos. They probably just watched the content online to figure out how to actually get started with selling physical products online. Fun fact, Ann McFerrin was actually one of my students a few years ago in my Amazon Freedom course, which is now called Ecom Freedom. I've been running a course both for Amazon and Shopify during the last few years, just on the side, just to help people all around the world start successful e-commerce businesses, because so many people have asked me, like myself, how I've been able to make all this money with e-commerce. Throughout the past few years, thousands of people have been able to start successful and transformational e-commerce businesses just through my free content on my YouTube channel. I've got tons of videos, like hundreds of videos on there, talking about Amazon FBA, Shopify, how to find products, how to find suppliers, how to grow your brand, how to launch your products, everything. And the great thing about e-commerce is that unlike any other business out there, you can literally start with $1,000 to $5,000, right? So anywhere between $1,000 and $5,000, and you can grow it into a 6 to 7 figure business and brand, an actual business that you're proud of, an actual business with products that you're selling, and a loyal customer fan base and an amazing target market that you're actually serving with your high quality products. There is no other business where you can start with this little amount of money and build it to a 6 to 7 figure revenue per year in sales. I've seen time and time again, and I've done this many, many times myself, where I started with just $1,800. That's how much I started with my own Amazon FBA brand. And I actually managed to scale that to over $32,000 a month in sales back in early 2017 in just the span of 3 months. I actually set the goal for myself to hit $10,000 a month in sales within 6 months of starting. This was in March of 2017. And then, by July of 2017, after launching my product on Amazon, I actually was able to make $32,000 in a single month in revenue. That's at roughly a 30 to 50% profit margin, which is the typical profit margin with e-commerce. So now it's pretty clear that, okay, compared to any other business out there, there's never been a better time to actually start an e-commerce brand. But the question is, how do you go about actually starting? And this is where I really want to venture into my own story here. Like I said, 3 years ago, I got into Amazon. I was able to start my own brand. Since then, I've sold tons of products. I've built multiple brands. But for me, it's been really like, okay, just start a brand and blow it up to $1 million a year in sales, and then either sell it off or give it away to a business partner, like in the case of one of my brands. What I'm focused on now, 3 years down the road, right now I'm actually focused on starting an e-commerce. I've been working on an e-commerce food brand in the fitness industry. I'm very excited about that. I can't really talk more about it right now, but I will share it on my channel. And my goal with this brand is to really blow it up to $1 billion. This one is a little tricky because it is a food brand, but for you starting out, you don't have to go anywhere near food. What I recommend is just, starting by selling, basic everyday products that you see that are like high quality. They'll serve a great market. You can find them on Alibaba, which is the number one manufacturer website in the world to find. Like usually you'll find suppliers from China on there. And that's it. It's very simple. That's what I did for my first products when I was starting to sell on Amazon. I just sourced them off Alibaba. It was super simple. I got them into the Amazon warehouse and I started selling them. Since my life has been in e-commerce in the past few years, I haven't just been selling products online. I've also started the number one online business education platform in e-commerce called Ecom Freedom. We've helped thousands of people start successful e-commerce businesses. We have a team of $1 million sellers. We're all selling our own product and we're all in the trenches in e-commerce every single day. During the same time, recently, I've also started the Ecom Freedom VC, which is the first venture capital fund for e-commerce businesses. I really believe that with our team and with our company, Ecom Freedom, we have the best e-commerce talent and the best, courses and coaching. And we can really, we've grown so many brands up to 1 million plus. So that's why through the Ecom Freedom VC, I am personally investing in your e-commerce business. If you have an e-commerce brand idea, then you can actually apply. There's going to be useful links down below. You'll find the link to apply to the VC there as well. So if you want an investment of anywhere between 1 to 10K, you can actually go fill out an application, and then you'll find the deadline for the current round of investment. In the past few years, all my business projects have been involved around e-commerce because Warren Buffett's number one advice, Warren Buffett and his right-hand man, Charlie Munger, they're like considered the most successful stock investors in the world. They have this concept called the circle of competence, which basically means stick to what you know. And my life entirely changed when I committed to one thing, one industry, which was e-commerce, and I stuck to what I know, and I basically mastered it. Right? So I actually want to show you and give you more direct insight into the lives of $1 million Shopify and Amazon sellers. I'm going to interview Josh Bak, who's our head of Shopify at Ecom Freedom, as well as Scott Suggs, who is our head of Amazon at Ecom Freedom. They've both are very successful e-commerce sellers, both on Amazon and Shopify. You know, they've done millions in sales. And I want you to hear it personally from Josh and from Scott, how they got into e-commerce, their experience with e-commerce, how it's changed their lives, and their best advice for beginners, for people who are looking to start a successful online business, for people who are looking to achieve passive income. So let's go ahead. I'm going to ask my friend Josh a few questions. All right, so now I've got Josh Bak here on the call with me. Super happy to have Josh. So let me ask you, so when did you get started with e-commerce?
Got started with e-commerce, I'd say about 3 years ago. 3 years it's been.
And what made you get into e-commerce in the first place?
Well, I was working as a corporate accountant, so doing that daily grind, working for like 50,000 Australian a year and doing like 50 hours, 60 hours per week.
And you're from Australia?
Yeah, that's right.
So going back to that time when you were working your 9-to-5 job and you were just working, you're making 50K a year Australian, which is like, I don't know, like 35 a year US or something.
Yeah,
like not too much at all. So did that, like, how did that give you the motivation? Is that like why we're like, I'm just tired of this and I just need to find something?
It wasn't really like the money thing that was kind of like the biggest thing. It was just that, I wasn't happy with going to a certain place, being told what to do, and then kind of getting like, oh, here's a reward, and that reward being so small as well. Killing myself over it and, really getting nothing back. No recognition, like financially or emotionally or like anything like that. It was just wasn't fulfilling at all.
What were you, when you were working at that corporate job, before you got into e-commerce, before you got into online business, were you like, because this is what I experienced. I also came from a corporate background. I worked at the bank in Canada. When I was sitting at the cubicle at the bank, a lot of the times I was just daydreaming about the things that I could do if I had the money and if I had the time. So did you also have that? And what were you like daydreaming of?
Yeah, because like when I was first trying to get into it, right? Like when I was working my corporate job, it was like I was always on YouTube, right? And I would see people like yourself and other people in this e-com space that were like, oh, I'm in Finland, or I'm in Canada, I'm in the US, and they're just jumping around like week on week. And I'm just thinking like, how is this possible?
Yeah.
And so at our corporate office, literally it was just like an amazing view of the Harbour Bridge in Sydney. And I was thinking like, wow, I have to be here at my desk for like 40, 50, 60 hours every single week. Whereas like I could be out there and like, how can I get out there? So after seeing new videos like yourself, and I just started looking into it.
And so you got into e-commerce in 2017, right? 17?
That's right, yeah.
And since that's when I got in as well. Since 2017, how much in sales have you made over all of your stores approximately?
Yeah. So we've had a lot of trials, but and we're constantly growing, like learning and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think we've netted over 7 figures over across 3 stories. Yeah. Like it's
amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And so now you're focusing on expanding. What's your main focus? Are you focusing on expanding? Because I know you have multiple stores. Are you focused on expanding your those stores, or just like you're trying to kind of maintain a few of them and focus all in on one brand?
Yeah, sure. So right now, I think one of them is kind of like at a point where I don't really need to touch it too much. It's already self-sustaining.
Self-sustained.
Yeah, it's doing amazing. The other 2 are still in their infancy stage, so we only have like 1 or 2 products on the store. So with that, like we're trying to build out the range just so that the sales are higher and more consistent over the period. Just like our first mature store.
Nice, that's amazing. And so you actually you found out about you started watching my YouTube videos at the time, and that's how you got in. Josh was actually one of the earliest students in the Shopify Freedom course when I released that in May 2019, almost 2 years ago now, which is crazy. So since then, Josh has just just been incredibly successful and, just built like an incredible e-commerce empire. And now he's our head of Shopify at Ecom Freedom. And I'm so happy to be working with such an amazing purpose and to have him on this video to tell you guys that, e-commerce is something that's possible for you. And going, around that, what do you think? Like, is there something that you want to tell to people that right now, because they're watching this video and they're thinking about, okay, is e-commerce really that good of an opportunity? Can I do it? That's what people think, right? They're like, is this something possible for me? What's your biggest advice for people getting into it?
E-commerce has changed my perception on everything, literally. And it's not going anywhere. And, even in the last year, we've seen so much growth, and I think it's more growth than we've seen in the whole last 5-6 years, right? Together. So my biggest piece of advice is it's very doable. Like, all my friends are still kind of at a disbelief when I tell them of what I do, or
because they've seen you before and after, right? Yeah.
Exactly. They're like, okay, so like, how's things? And they you know what? Like, they constantly reach out and they're trying to ask me like, well, blah blah blah, like all these things. But it's still in the same position. So like my best piece of advice is to, if you're going to jump into e-commerce, to be really, really dedicated to it. Don't let anything kind of distract you from finding that level of success that you want. And that success metric is completely dependent on you. You can set it as high or as low as possible whatever you want. That's the beauty of e-commerce. You literally have all the control, as opposed to what people think or what people tell you in everyday life.
And what do you think is the best way for people to actually get into e-commerce? Because for me, and people might think I'm biased because they know that obviously I have a course. And how I got started in e-commerce was I actually took several courses. And without that, I would not have been able to do anything at all. So, if I was asking myself this question, if I was starting today, that's what I would do. I would just find the people that are there and doing it and just, take their course and basically invest in yourself and just do it, because how else are you going to learn, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. Like, if I could count like the amount of money that I've spent on like learning and also making mistakes, right? If you can kind of skip all that and take all the learnings that you and I have made and just start with that, like, you're at a huge head start. So 100%, like, that's why courses are valuable. That's why courses have a value that that you can't really put a figure on, because it's going to save you so much money in the long run anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome, Josh. And Josh is actually the head of Shopify. He's our head mentor in the Shopify Freedom program, which is amazing, because Josh was one of the earliest students, and then, he became very successful with it. And now he's actually, giving back and coaching students in that as well. So there's going to be a link down below for the Shopify Freedom program where you can get Josh as well as myself as mentors. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, mate.
All right, so now we got Scott Suggs here on the video. So, hey, Scott, welcome. Just want to ask you, how did you get started with e-commerce? Maybe take us back through your story and walk us through just from beginning to success, how everything happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously I always had some type of drive to be able to do something entrepreneurial, right? I was always looking for something I could create and do on my own. I had a job at the time. It was fine. It wasn't anything special, but it wasn't really something that's really kind of satisfying me for a long-term goal that I was trying to go after. Because ultimately, you can't really get the freedom when you're just kind of stuck there at a fixed income. Maybe you get gradual increases and stuff like that. So I had this idea where I saw some people that I knew were doing this business model where they were selling at trade shows, kind of like home and garden shows, selling a product. And I saw that, I was like, great, I can do something like that. And basically what I did is I did something similar. Didn't, rip off their business completely, but just took the idea, came up with my own product and started selling at these trade shows.
This was a physical product, right?
Yeah, this was a physical product, right?
So you got into physical product through the trade show idea, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah, so that was kind of my first introduction to selling a physical product. And at the time I didn't realize that how easy it was to actually kind of create your own product, create your own brand, right? So I kind of saw that, so obviously I can't sell their product. I don't want to do their things. I knew them. But I was like, let me go find a product. So I researched it, found a product, created my own product, my own brand, brought it to these shows and realized that I hated the business model, right? So it's kind of my fault for not researching, not kind of maybe getting into it more to see if I liked it before I kind of jumped all into it. But
What did you hate about it? Did you hate about like the fact that you had to go to these trade shows?
yeah, so you had to schedule these shows way into advance. You had to be in person. It's kind of more one-on-one sales. You can talk to people to try to get them to pitch them on the product and see if they'll buy from your booth. And of course, you could maybe hire other people, but ultimately, it's all in person. And even especially now, with everything that's gone recently, and even showed more like that business model is not good. Obviously, I've been out of that business model for a while, but everything shut down. They weren't doing they're not doing in-person conventions right now. It's just, if that was my sole source of income, I'd pretty much, be screwed over right now. So that's what kind of made me pivot to where obviously I had this inventory that I needed to sell. And that's where I really started focusing on e-commerce and that opportunity, because, that also allowed me to sell not just to people in my state, but people all over the United States, because I started selling just Amazon US. So that's what brought me into FBA, kind of learning more about that product opportunity or business opportunity. And then eventually getting my product up onto Amazon. That's kind of my first foray into e-commerce.
Okay, cool. And was it hard for you? Was the product that you got up on Amazon, was it like the same that you sold at the trade shows, or just the new product that you found?
At this time, it was the exact same product. So I got into it. I kind of learned the business model. I started to understand, what went into selling on Amazon, selling on e-commerce. Ultimately decided that the product I had, because when I created this product, it wasn't with selling online in mind. It wasn't with selling on Amazon in mind. So, but just getting a product up, I learned a ton from that experience. Eventually just sold through the inventory, recouped my money, and then went forward with creating a brand new product with particularly in mind that I'm going to be selling online, doing e-commerce with this one.
Cool. And this was when? This was like 4 or 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably about 6 years ago. At this point in time, I think probably about March. We're in February now, so I think March of this year, 2021, it will be about 6 years since I very first started selling on Amazon.
Wow. So you literally started at like, I guess, the dawn of e-commerce, like before, because we could say that it really blew up this year and last year, right? Because of the world situation.
Yeah.
So since then, how much in sales have you done in all your e-commerce ventures, just roughly?
Yeah, I've hit 7 figures total through my businesses, through my brands, millions of dollars, which is to me just kind of mind blowing.
Yeah.
When I was thinking about selling originally, just selling my product, I was hoping to get, $25 or, maybe sell a package or something of the product. And it was like getting $50 or something, to going from that and hoping I'd walk away from the show with a couple $100 in profit to, be able to pass a couple $100, way past a couple $100 of profit per day.
Before, you were literally like hoping, you were going to trade shows and you were hoping to just get a few $100s of profit at each trade show, right? And then,
yeah, or maybe each day. Trade shows usually run like a few days, few days, something like that. So I was like, maybe if I just couple $100 a day, might walk away with $500,000 at the end of the show, and hopefully do, or maybe more. But that's kind of like a base minimum to try to like break even on it.
And did you always want to be an entrepreneur, or is it just something that kind of landed in your lap and you're like, okay, I'm going to go with this? Like, how did it happen?
Yeah, I always had some type of goal to be an entrepreneur, because I think I got it mainly from my dad is what I got it from, because I always saw him. He had a real estate business at the time when I was kind of growing up. So I kind of saw that, and I had the mind of someone, having that as a goal to get to, of like, oh, here's someone that runs their own business, has their own business, and seeing what he did. So I always kind of had that in mind. I just never really had a vehicle to do it. Right. It's like, what do I do? You're, going through high school, and especially then, I mean, when I was in high school, YouTube was kind of like just getting started. It wasn't like it is now, where you can just go to YouTube and you want to learn about a business model. You can basically like, start getting into it. There wasn't as many like information courses. There wasn't as many, there wasn't such an opportunity really to learn about these different business models as it is now, where it's like so much easier to really get good quality data.
Yeah, and actually it was the same with me. Same thing with me. Like, I knew that I wanted to get into entrepreneurship, but I just had no vehicle. For me, when I was in college and university, it was really like, hey, either you're just gonna get through college and then just do the 9 to 5, or you're gonna create the next startup. That's how it was. Like for me, being from Canada, that was just either you're gonna try to create the next Uber or Airbnb, and you're gonna probably fail, or you're gonna, do the classic 9 to 5. So finding out about e-commerce and the fact that you can learn everything online, you don't have to have any previous, like you didn't have e-commerce experience, right? Like you didn't have any of that. So, it's amazing the fact that anybody can just start, and it's not just me, it's not just Scott. Like there's been thousands of people that I've personally seen succeed, and that's just from the content that I post on my YouTube. So how do you see the Amazon FBA marketplace right now? And are there any tips that you can give for people starting out?
Yeah. So obviously, when you're getting into a business model, people always have the question like, is it too late to get into it? Is it, is it too complicated? And I can tell you, and this is not a joke, when I was getting started 6 years ago, people were saying the same thing. Like literally 6 years ago, people were saying the exact same thing. And I promise you, from when I started to now, there's been probably thousands of people that have succeeded and created full-time incomes from e-commerce, right? So it's never too late. It's just a matter of how you execute it and how you do it. And I think for me, when it comes to e-commerce, obviously the future is e-commerce, right? I mean, I could see a future where eventually most people are probably never going to go to a store. Maybe it'll be quite a long time before that happens, but like it's never going to go away, right? Retail might go away, but e-commerce is not going to go away, right? It's not going to pivot backwards to where we only go to stores and don't purchase online, right? So it's only going to get bigger. Amazon obviously facilitates that process, helps make it easier for a person to get the distribution that they need to handle the inventory, to handle the shipping, and expand into other markets if you want to. It's easier to sell globally if you want to now, which would have been crazy to think about, a very long time ago. So I think for me, the opportunity is obviously still there. I think the mindset you have to go into is, in my opinion, is you just can't go in with the mindset of, I'm just going to sell a product on Amazon. I think those days, 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, you could probably just pick a product, throw it up, and you'd make money if you at least put some effort into it, right? But I think going forward, you got to kind of have the goal in mind, like I'm going to create maybe a brand, or I kind of have this vision for, this particular product, or the case may be. Like there's some, it's more than just kind of like a get rich quick type thing, right? You got to actually like look at it as a business, because that's how I treat it, as a business. And then it grew into an actual, business where I am able to pull full-time income from it. So I think, if you go into it with the right mindset and the right goal, that you're going to grow this product or a brand or a product line or whatever you want to do, you'll ultimately be able to find success. Because I can tell you, I didn't succeed immediately, but after a few products, that's where things really started to roll and snowball.
Got it. Thank you, Scott. You guys can check out Scott's YouTube channel in the description below. So there you go. That was a little interview with Josh and Scott, just answering some questions about e-commerce, their experience with it, hopefully to encourage you and to show you that e-commerce is really something that anybody can do. Right now, there's never been a better time to start an e-commerce business. I also want to take this time to answer a few questions about, whether e-commerce is oversaturated or not, and how easy it really is to succeed, as well as how much money you can realistically make. So the first question: is e-commerce too competitive right now? Is Shopify too competitive? Is Amazon FBA too competitive? And the answer is no. There's actually never been a better time to start. And the reason I'm not just saying that, I'm telling the truth. If you look back, let's say we're going to fast forward to the year 2040, 2050, and we look back on 2021 and 2022, 2023, we're going to look back and say, wow, that was really the dawn of e-commerce. There's actually a statistic that I read that over 90% of all physical product transactions are going to be made online by the year 2040. And I fully believe that. I mean, it just makes sense, right? It's not that hard to kind of look into the future and plot out where the world is going. So if you look back today, there's never been a better time to start. It's now, because, especially with the whole world situation that's been going on, so many people are shopping online. People that really were reluctant to shop online. Myself, I've been shopping online even before the world situation, just because it's super convenient. And maybe it's because I'm younger as well. Maybe it's because I'm in my 20s, more like the millennial generation. So that's why, for me, I adopted it early. But all those other people who refused to adopt, like they weren't early adopters, they were pretty much forced to adopt e-commerce. They were pretty much forced to order online when this whole world situation kind of blew up. And you know what I'm talking about when I mean world situation. So the number of people that are coming on and embracing e-commerce and they're just purchasing products online is basically soaring every single year, even every single month. If you look at just on Amazon, the massive wave of new customers, the massive amount of new customers far outpaces the amount of even new sellers. Roughly 75% of sellers on Amazon are third-party sellers. So people just like you and me. And that's how I've been able to start my Amazon FBA business in 2017, right? Because Amazon allows anybody in the world to actually sell, and you can sell in any country. Most people that say that it's too late to get into e-commerce, it's too late to get into Amazon or Shopify, that it's too saturated, those people, they've either tried it themselves and they've given up, and they just, they realize that entrepreneurship is not a walk in the park. When you try to become an entrepreneur, it's not the easiest thing of all. In my opinion, and again, this is an opinion, it's not shared by everybody. Everybody has the right to share their own opinions, of course. In my opinion, I would much rather commit to a life of entrepreneurship where, yes, I'm not, my income is not guaranteed and it's very quote unquote unsafe and risky, but the potential for reward is much higher. Like if I win at entrepreneurship, which I've been winning for the last several years, then obviously the life that I'm able to live and the things that I'm able to do are significantly better, way better. The potential is way higher than just sticking to the regular 9-to-5 job. And also, in my opinion as well, I think that a life of entrepreneurship is much safer and carries a lot less risk inherently than trusting the system, trusting the government to pay you, to send out checks, trusting your employer, and just basically just committing to the regular 9-to-5 life. Like if one thing we've seen in the past few years is that jobs are far from guaranteed, and that if you trust the system, well, don't be surprised if the system screws you. Now, the next question that people have is how realistic really is it to start an e-commerce business, and how much money can you make? And the truth is that in entrepreneurship, my life changed when I learned this one statistic. 99% of people quit after 3 failures. And for me, when I was starting out entrepreneurship, and you'll probably experience the same range of emotions, it was very like an up and down time, right? For me, I was wondering, I'm like, when am I going to succeed? How many failures do I have to go through? Why do I have to go through failures to succeed? Why is that necessary? And again, failure is not necessary to succeed. You might be one of those lucky people who succeed with their first product, and that's fantastic. That wasn't me. I experienced a few failures on my way to my first product. I talk about this in depth in many of my other videos. It was my third product that actually succeeded on Amazon FBA. But, the key is to overcome all obstacles. I believe that life is a test from God, you can say from a higher power, right? Anything that you believe in is fine, right? So you can just replace God with anything you want. But I believe that life is a series of tests, and God is basically testing you whether you're worthy or not of success and of the good life, because success inherently carries with it responsibility. Once you have a successful e-commerce business, at that point, you're eventually going to have to hire a team. You're eventually going to have to, start paying people salaries. You're going to literally be the person that is putting other people's food on the table for them, right? By starting your business and by, creating your team and expanding and everything. So that's why entrepreneurship is so great. And that's why it's also not the easiest thing in the world. But is it worth it? It sure as hell is. Honestly, when I was starting out in entrepreneurship, I said to myself, I want to live a life of adventure. And 3 years ago, since I started, my life has been an absolutely epic adventure. So, my recommendation to you is just commit to it. It's incredible. And yes, there will be so many bumps in the road. It's important to keep your mental health in check. It's important to just kind of keep your old friends around. Your old friends are gold. Remember that. And just basically commit to it. Learn from the best. Learn from people actually in the game. Get mentors. In terms of that, Ecom Freedom is definitely the best. And my YouTube channel has just an incredible amount of free content. Like I said, that has changed thousands of people's lives. So I hope that this video inspired you to really get into e-commerce and consider it as your online business of choice that you're going to commit to. Subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video. Down below, there's going to be a lot of useful links for my podcast, The Dan Bass Show. I also, love making podcasts. So I talk about a lot of different things like entrepreneurship, passive income, e-commerce, achieving wealth, getting rich, success, happiness, all that kind of stuff. So you can subscribe to my podcast down there. You can also add me on Instagram. It's at Dan Bass. You can send me a DM on there anytime. It's the best way to reach me. I actually read DMs and respond to them. I want you to leave me a comment telling me what is the number one thing stopping you from starting an e-commerce business. I'm actually going to respond to every comment because I want to show you that most things that you're worrying about, or most things that people worry about in general, 99% of those things are not true and they never actually end up happening. And they're just fake obstacles that your subconscious mind is perceiving, because our subconscious mind, its job is kind of there to prevent us. It's just to keep us in our comfort zone and prevent us from, falling over. But the thing is that to succeed, you will have to fall over at least once, twice, 3 times. Some people fall over 10,000 times. Eventually they succeed. That's the point. You only have to win once. So thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video. Dan out.